Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married at First Sight, Married at First Sight UK, Season 7, Episode 16. Let's get into it. So the first couple that we see in this episode is Gemma and Matt. This is one of our newest couples that have joined the cast. Now, Gemma and Matt, they have been struggling. They have been struggling quite a bit. They are struggling with attraction, which is like a running theme on Married at First Sight for a lot of these couples. They are struggling with attraction. So they both agree that on their wedding day, they're heavily attracted to one another. They both said that the wedding day was magical. It was a lot of chemistry on their wedding day. But after the wedding day, it went downhill in like lightning speed. So their major issue is that, according to Matt, if you hear him tell it, Gemma is just too overtly sexual. She makes a lot of sexual jokes. She has a potty mouth. She's always saying something really crass, very explicit. She loves dirty jokes. She loves to flirt with him. On the more like really flirt with him on the heavy side, and not any type of cute ladylike type flirting, like some real trucker flirting. And for Matt, Gemma is coming on just way too strong, and it's not attractive to him at all. It makes her look cheap. So I feel like with Matt, he just doesn't like her. I don't even think he thought the wedding day was that magical. I don't even know why he keeps saying that. I really don't think that I think that he was probably impressed by the fact that they matched him with a woman who had just as many, not as many, but almost as many tattoos as he did. I think that's what really impressed him. I think maybe he was distracted by all of her tattoos, but I don't think that he really felt any type of attraction or connection to her other than the tattoos. So this is the reason why it's very easy for him to push her away, and it's very easy for him to distance himself from her because he doesn't have any attraction to her at all whatsoever. And he's just, pulling her leg by, talking about how it'd be better for them if he didn't live in the apartment. He needs his space. He needs his boundaries. And so this is the reason why he's not with her. It's not because he needs space or boundaries. He just doesn't like her. He's not attracted to her. He doesn't feel anything towards her. He just doesn't like her. And we do find out that, now, instead of him just walking away from this whole experiment, he's going to go ahead and stay, and he's going to go ahead and pretend like he wants to make things work with her because something else or someone else has caught Matt's eye. But we get to all of that salacious details later. So later on, Matt and Gemma, they have dinner with Shanita and Jordan. So during dinner, of course, we're talking about the relationship and the ups and downs of their relationship with Shanita and Jordan. Matt makes a Freudian slip by saying that he is stuck with Gemma. And once he said it, everybody looked at him like, oh, that's how you see yourself in this marriage. You see yourself as being stuck. And so once he realized that he said it, he tried to clean it up. He tried to take it back, but you can't unsay something that's already been said. So he talks about how he needs his own space. And Gemma tells him that they do need to spend some time together because they're a married couple and they came into the experiment late and they don't have as much time as everybody else to get to know each other. So they need to spend as much time as possible so that I guess when decision day comes around, they'll know what needs to be said. They'll know what decision to make. So how are you going to be able to get to know someone and grow with someone if y'all are living in two separate apartments? So they end up arguing. Okay. They end up arguing. I don't even know what the argument was about. It has something to do with her wanting more from him and him not willing to give it to her. And so they start bickering back and forth, and it gets so bad that Gemma gets up and she actually walks away and she leaves. And she walks just outside, in the hallway. And Shanita has to go chase her and go talk to her. And Gemma says that Matt is always looking for a problem while she's looking for a solution. So even when she's on her best behavior, and she doesn't have her potty mouth, and she's not making the sexual innuendos or the sexual jokes and coming on to him really strong, even when she is being a good little girl, he will find something else to complain about. So in my opinion, I think that Matt is horrible to Gemma. I think Gemma is actually trying. Unfortunately, her personality is fading. Her spirit is fading away because she's trying to convert herself into something that he likes, something that he would want. And in the process of that, she's losing herself because she is not the same Gemma that we met. Initially, Gemma had a lot of personality. She was loud. She was very brass. Yes, she was very offensive, but that's just who she was, to hear her tell it. That's just how she is. She was a loudmouth, she was crass. She was all those things. She was a big ball of energy. She had a big personality. And now she's just like fading away into the background because she doesn't know what to do with herself. If she's herself, Matt doesn't like it. So she has to tone it down. When she tones it down, he still finds something to complain with. And so she's left in this state of limbo and confusion. So we've lost Gemma. We've completely lost her. Let's move on to Duca and Whitney. So they had an exercise, all the couples did, and the exercise was to list 3 things that you like about your partner and 3 things that you dislike about your partner, something like that. Well, whatever the questions were, Duca gave very superficial, very flat answers. Like, for example, I dislike the fact that you take too long to get ready. I dislike the fact that you don't make coffee in the morning. Stupid stuff like that. So Whitney got visibly irritated because he wasn't taking the exercise seriously. He was, taking it as a joke. He didn't go deep enough. He didn't give any answer, any thought. And so this completely frustrated her. So Whitney tells him that she does like his sense of humor. And he was really impressed by that. He liked the fact that she liked how he made her laugh. And Duca likes that she's not needy and that she's considerate. So he chose some very vague, broad words that you would use to describe just anybody. Nothing very specific or unique pertaining to Whitney and her personality and the person that she is. So Whitney didn't like that answer. She thought that it was, very vague, that he was just saying something just to say something, because I don't know what's going on with Duca. I get the feeling that Duca is here for other reasons. I don't think he's really that into Whitney, but, he claims that he is. He claims that he wants to make this marriage work with Whitney, but he doesn't do the things to prove it. And Whitney's biggest complaint about Duca has always been his actions do not match his words. He talks a good game about, I want this to work and I care about her and I don't want to walk away from this marriage and I'm here to the end. I want to be married forever. But he doesn't do the things to make her feel as if he really wants to be in this marriage. So Duca's just playing games. I don't know if he's here for popularity or if he's here for, I don't know what's going on with Duca, but he's definitely not into Whitney. And, yeah, it's so obvious. I don't know who he thinks he's fooling. So, so Duca and Whitney, they're so struggling. There's no chemistry between them. There's no romance between them. She's, very, I don't want to say grossed out by him, but she's definitely very irritated by him. And it's just, I don't even know what these two people are doing. And of course, because he's always wanting to stay in the experiment, she also has to stay with him. So she's just suffering through it, but she's putting in a lot more effort than he is. And she doesn't even want to be there. Moving on to Zoe and Jenna. Okay, so Zoe and Jenna, they're doing fine, as far as we can tell, but I feel like there's something brewing slightly below the surface between Zoe and Jenna, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something that's kind of disconnected with Zoe and Jenna, but they say that they had a really great week. They didn't argue about veganism. The only issue is that Jenna did not appreciate being blindsided by Zoe at the last commitment ceremony when Zoe had said that she wishes they were more like friends. Like, she wishes that they would have good times together, that they would laugh together, joke around together. They're missing that friendship element in their relationship. So Jenna was, she was blindsided by that. And she told Zoe afterwards, if you have a problem with me or if you have a problem with our relationship, please let me know so I can get a chance to fix her so that we can at least talk about it, instead of you just spilling your guts during commitment ceremony. And I don't know how to respond or what to say because I have no idea what you're talking about. Moving on to George and April. George and April are on the struggle bus big time. I think April should run as far as she can. Run for the hills, April. I don't think you want any of this because George, he has a lot of baggage, okay? A lot of baggage. And I think George needs therapy before he can get into a serious relationship because he has so many insecurities and trust issues. I don't see how anybody can be happy or comfortable with him. So they do the exercise about what bothers your, about your likes or dislikes about your partner. April says that what she doesn't like is how he puts her in a position where she constantly has to defend herself. Like he'll accuse her of doing something that she's not doing, and it's just stuff that he's making up in his head, things that he's seen that are not really there, and he'll accuse her of these things, and she constantly has to defend herself. She's constantly on defense with him. And so George, he disagreed with that, but he really had nothing more to say to that because he knows that she's right. He knows that she's right. So he really didn't say much. He really didn't want to talk about that. And she was like, no, I really want to talk about this. And he really didn't want to go too deep into it. So George says that his dislikes are when she leaves out certain details from her past. When she leaves out certain details from her past, okay? So the example that he gives is that, okay, because she was a beauty pageant over there in the UK. I think she was Miss, I don't know what she was, Miss Great Britain or something. I don't know. And so I guess she's got some form of celebrity over there in the UK. I have no idea. And so she had told him about a past boyfriend, and the way that she had presented this to him, she made it seem as if it was like a fling. It was like a very short-lived relationship. No big deal. No feelings were involved. Nothing really developed between her and this guy. And it was just like a really quick little relationship. No big deal. But then he looked it up, y'all. He Googled this and he looked it up on, I think he said he looked at her wiki. I think he looked at her wiki or something, and it talked about how they were together for 3 months. And so he was like, why didn't you tell me that y'all were together for 3 months? You told me the way you made it seem like it was a really, like a very short-lived relationship. And so she was like, because it wasn't necessary for me to tell you that it lasted 3 months. And so they go on and on and on about this. And so for him, when you omit, you're a big fat liar. When you don't tell him every single excruciating detail of every single day of your life, to him, you're lying to him. You're being dishonest. And so, because he has trust issues, because he was cheated on in the past. Excuse me. So he's got major trust issues. And I'm thinking to myself, whether she was with this guy for a month or 6 months or a year, what difference does it make? She is no longer with him. So I guess in his mind, in George's world, if you're not giving him all of the details of the relationship, every single last bit of them, then you must be hiding something. You're being deceptive because you're hiding something from him because you didn't tell him everything. And so, I don't know. I guess for some women that would be great, that he would want to hear so much about your life, because women love to talk and they love to talk a lot about themselves and everything. So for some women, they would love that. They were like, oh, sit down, grab a cup of coffee. Let me tell you everything about that guy. Whereas, April, she's just not that type. She's just not going to be the one to give him all the details. She's only going to tell him what she believes is important to tell him. And like I said, what does it matter? She's not with that guy anymore. So, anyways, so later on, April meets up with Whitney because they're both struggling with their marriages. And, she talks about how George had left the apartment after they got into this argument about her past boyfriend. He got so upset that he left the apartment and he went to go spend the night, I think, with Adrian and Thomas. So George is at Adrian and Thomas, and he's talking to Adrian, and he's talking about how he's really struggling with this internet story of April. Like, the fact that she lied about how long she was with this past boyfriend. I mean, it affected him so bad that he was actually crying on Adrian's shoulder. And I don't know how Adrian deals with this stuff, because it's like, you're like, George, you're being so selfish, because Adrian and Thomas have their own issues that they have to work out. Adrian has a handful with Thomas. Now here you are in their apartment, in their space, taking up their time talking about your issues with April, which are basically a non-issue, because you are mad about the fact that she didn't tell you all of the salacious details of a past relationship, which I'm thinking the average person wouldn't give all that information. But anywho, here we are. But Adrian, being as gracious as he is, he sat there, he listened to him, he gave him a shoulder to cry on, he gave him a hug and a pat on the back and cookies and milk and tucked him in bed. And it was just ridiculous. And I'm pretty sure Thomas was like, get the hell out of my damn apartment. Because, Thomas is sincere for April and George because of him believing that, I don't know what really happened between April and Thomas and Shanita. But, Thomas thinks that April lied to Shanita and told Shanita that he was talking crap about her. So he doesn't see it for April and George. And I know that he must have been just burning up to have this man who is married to his arch nemesis in his apartment taking up his husband's time. So later on, April and George talk and they have a conversation about their issues. And George, he basically wants every detail of every relationship that April has ever had. So he was on the brink of leaving. Now, what they do agree with, George and April, is that they're falling for one another. And I'm surprised because I'm like, April, you seem like such a sensible girl. How could you be falling for someone who is this crazy, who's this unstable? Like, how? How can you be falling for someone who looks at you with such distrust? Someone who went to a dinner party and immediately began telling people how you practically were cheating on him because you kissed some chick in the hot tub on your honeymoon. How can you be falling for a guy like this with so much baggage? But anyway, they admit to one another that they do have feelings for one another, that they care for each other, that they're falling in love with one another. And April says, this is the reason why it hurts so much, because I'm falling for you. And I was like, girl, are you serious? Please. Moving on to Jonathan and Sophie. Y'all, Jonathan and Sophie have become such a huge disappointment to me because Jonathan, I wanted to like him so bad, but it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Anyway, so they have dinner with Adrian and Thomas, and Jonathan comes across as extremely patronizing, toxic masculinity almost, very domineering. He thinks he's right all the time, and it's just impossible for him to not be right. He's just extremely like, it's his way or the highway. You know what I mean? It's his way or the highway. He has his beliefs and they're not going to change, whatever the hell they are. You cannot convince him of anything else. He believes what he believes and that's it. Once he makes a judgment about a person, that's it. It sticks. He's not going to change his mind. He's not going to listen to any kind of reasoning at all whatsoever. And he's also, he's just, oh God, he's just not a good husband. They have a conversation about April's workout routine. And there was just certain exercises that she was doing, certain strengthening exercises. I don't know if she was actually doing them or she wasn't doing them. And he was warning her, don't you do these type of exercises. But whatever they were, he didn't want her to bulk up. He was like, I don't want you doing those exercises because I don't want you to, to bulk up and get all muscly on me. And, oh, I forgot what they were. Were they squats or something? I don't know what it was. And I'm like, how can you tell this woman that? Number one, do you know how much work a woman has to do to bulk up? And I don't see Sophie as someone who is exercising with the intent of gaining muscle mass. I'm pretty sure she's just trying to stay toned and stay fit. I don't think she's trying to acquire like 50 pounds of muscle. So he told her, like, they talked about that, and Adrian and Thomas both were telling him, you cannot talk to your wife like that. You just can't do that. He doesn't want to hear it. He don't want to hear it. He doesn't want to be told that he's wrong. He believes in what he believes, and he's sticking with it, and that's it. And so they told him that you have to be a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more considerate of your wife's feelings. And he's like, he don't care. He's like, okay, I don't want you doing no damn squats because you're going to come in here looking like, looking like the Hulk, and I don't want to be married to the Hulk. And it's just like, Jonathan, are you serious? Oh my God. Moving on to Keisha and Kwame. So they're doing very well. I mean, that one expert, the one who kind of like, helped them along with their physical intimacy, honey, she did this couple a world of good. Because they're so different from when they started off. Because when they started off, Kwame was like beating around the bush. He was like keeping his distance from her. He was like, I'm not ready to do X, Y, and Z with you. I need time. We need to get to know each other better. And Keisha was ready to hop on it, but he was kept on, keeping her far away. But then when that expert came and gave them the box of goodies of adult toys, honey, they've been off to the races ever since. So they're doing extremely well. He's being very affectionate, very loving and caring towards her. He's extremely attracted to her. He likes to give her gifts just as much as she loves to receive them. She tells him that I love surprises, and he was like, baby, don't worry, I got you. I'm gonna be giving you surprises, for the rest of your life. And he does actually surprise her in this episode. He surprises her with this poem, and the poem was like spot on. This was a poem that you can tell he put a lot of thought into it. Like he was thinking. Keisha was his what do you call it when something really inspires you to be creative? Muse. Keisha was his muse, y'all. That poem that he wrote for her. It was really nice. It was really nice. I don't want to go over the top and, compare him to Shakespeare or anything or Langston Hughes, but that poem about Keisha was like spot on. So he gave her flowers along with a poem, and life is really good. He keeps on praising her about her cooking. And, for a lot of us women who don't cook, who don't know how to cook very well, I felt like a tinge of envy, the fact that Keisha's such a great cook. And, I've always, I admire women who can do that, can go into the kitchen and whip something up that their men absolutely enjoy. Because, that old saying, how the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. When you are a good cook, I think that overrides a lot. A man can look past a lot of stuff when you know how to throw down in the kitchen. And Keisha only knows how to throw down in the kitchen. She knows how to throw down in the bedroom too. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. So Kwame has the best of both worlds with Keisha, and he is so happy and so relaxed. That is my review. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.